This is Death of the Reprobate. Death of the Reprobate is a point-and-click adventure game I had wishlisted since April of 2023, and it finally got an official release this November. It is a game by developer Joe Richardson, who I was already quite familiar with. Before playing this one, I had already played The Procession to Calvary and Four Last Things, which are essentially the same type of games and could be considered prequels to Death of the Reprobate. I was pretty excited for this game to come out, but with the current main channel direction, covering it just didn't feel quite right on the main channel, so I figured I'd just ramble about it on this one instead. So I got 3 things to note here before starting my yapping session. 1. This isn't gonna be a well-structured review like the ones I do on Words of Wisdom. It'll mostly be me rambling about my impressions of the game, and thus I'll likely forget a thing or two, or I don't know, cook up the most incoherent review ever. 2. I will in fact be spoiling some of the puzzles and the plot. I really don't give a fuck about like keeping that hidden for those that want to play the game themselves. So keep that in mind if you want to pick this thing up. And then the third, the most obvious one. I was sick last week, and while I feel perfectly fine right now, I still have this fucking nasally ass voice that I usually would sit out before recording a video on the Words of Wisdom channel. But then again, this is the second channel, so I don't really give a fuck. So enjoy my nasally ass voice for about one video. Death of the Reprobate starts with this obnoxious little shit called Malcom, handing out absurd punishments to a bunch of criminals who have dared to upset him. Until not a criminal, but a messenger is brought in. He then proceeds to tell your father, John the Immortal, isn't exactly immortal, and is about to die. And not that Malcom is sad about it, because he realizes it is time for him to claim that juicy inheritance. However, Old Man John is more than aware of the piece of shit Malcom and his inflated ego have become, and demands of him to prove he can actually be a good person for once, if he even wants to claim a single penny. So he tasks him with something he's never done before. Performing 7 good deeds before sundown if he even wants a shot at John's inheritance. And of course these 7 good deeds take on the form of a point-and-click puzzle adventure game. Each of the 7 deeds is done by i.e. doing a bunch of fetch quests or obtaining puzzle related items somewhere, as well as some, to me at least because I'm stupid as hell, out of the box thinking. If you take off its skin, it's a classic adventure game at its core, but given shape through these comically repurposed paintings, surreal looking scenes and landscapes, and stupid ass characters with stupid ass dialogue. Like I said earlier, to me, this is nothing new, considering I've played Joe Richardson's games before. Before booting this thing up, I knew I'd be bombarded with extremely out-of-pocket characters from like i.e. the Renaissance and Baroque periods saying the most out-of-pocket shit. It really takes those iconic eras in history and dials its crazy meter up to about 11 out of 10. Which to me ultimately is the charm of Joe's games. From the painter monkeys, dudes hanging from the ceiling, and an inflated ego couple with fans under her dress, the 2 drunk dudes pissing in bottles, and people gambling on monkeys playing board games, to drowning a woman using a big mallard. while these two dumbos fight over whose pain is worse. The game is just one big extremity after another, making just the act of clicking on someone or something and using every action available a moment of excitement. Malcom in the middle over here can perform one of 3 actions on every interactable object or person. He can look, speak or touch whatever you're clicking on. If you choose look, he'll briefly describe what someone or something is supposed to be, often leaning towards the insulting side of things because he's an egotistical fucking asshole. Speaking is the most useful option, as it will open a bunch of dialogue options whenever you speak to a relevant character that you need to advance in the game. Or he'll just spit on a person he doesn't like. Touching is probably my favorite option, because 9 out of 10 times it will smack somebody, except for women and small children. What a gentleman, am I right? In the face, with the only exceptions being a gentle pat on the head of like a dog, and clapping for these musicians cooking up some Mozart or Beethoven. Slapping somebody stays funny from start to finish, because of everybody's different reactions to it. Some will not react at all, some will be like, yeah, I kinda deserve that. And this dude selling fruit is just like, and then there's an achievement for repeatedly slapping this supposedly tough fisherman, that eventually drops the act and just tells you like, yeah, I wasn't gonna do anything anyway, I'm just a huge pussy, okay? It's honestly great. Using all 3 of these options, and by being a better creative thinker than me, you'll slowly but surely solve the puzzles and make your way to the end of the game. From here onwards, I'll spoil a little bit to explain my thoughts, so if you wanna play this, I'd either advise you to stop watching right here or like skip to the end for some reason. I don't know, there's gonna be spoilers probably until the end of the video. So yeah, stop watching right here if you want to play this. I don't know if I convinced you at this point yet, but anyway, some of the puzzles are more obvious than others. Helping the fisherman guy show his kids how to fish was a puzzle I figured out by simply just exploring the available areas. Upon entering the art museum, I instantly recognized this painting from the starting section of the game, and changing the basket from rocks to pigeons to actually enable the dude to catch any fish at all was pretty obvious to me. However, some of the puzzles were impossible for my peanut brain to understand, and even upon learning about their solutions, I really didn't feel like I was at fault like half of the time for not being able to solve them. Like, I know I'm not the most out-of-box thinker of all time, but not in a million years I would have even considered using this cabbage I picked up near this well to clog a chimney, to teleport these dudes to the tavern and then give them booze to keep them occupied so I could grab a magic book to fill up a well. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid. Admittedly, this was partly due to me not hovering over the chimney and thus not knowing it was something I could interact with, but the only way I would have solved it was probably by spamming my entire inventory on it anyway. Again, this could be due to my sheer incompetence, but I don't think every puzzle is reliant on just creative thinking, but also some exceptionally stupid shit even the more creative thinkers wouldn't even come up with. It doesn't help that due to the nature of its beautiful art style, it's rather easy to miss out on an interactive object, unless you take your time dragging your mouse across the entire screen, which is not something everybody is willing to do, or even thinks of really. Shit just really blends in with the background and you thus can't see what's part of the backdrops and what isn't. Only upon completing the game I learned that holding H or your middle mouse button will highlight every interactive object in an area. But unless I missed it, the game doesn't tell you this is the case at any point. However, even then, I enjoyed going back and forth to areas to figure out who or what I missed, trying to use my dumbass brain to figure shit out. I didn't always get to the point of solving a puzzle, but luckily Joe Richardson realized stupid people like me exist and might wanna play this game, and thus yoinked in this tiny zen area, where this mystic will tell you what to do to solve any given problem, step by step. Maybe it could have been a little less straightforward and give you a subtle hint instead of straight up telling you every... Sirens! Maybe it could have been a little less straightforward and give you subtle hints instead of straight up telling you everything. But I mean, it does prevent you from getting too frustrated and impatient when being unable to come up with a solution. If not for this funny little guy, I would have never figured out I had to feed this cow strawberries so he could shit out a strawberry milkshake into a bucket that I then had to feed to this annoying kid that has a whole wish list of what not to eat. I'd definitely still be stuck at that puzzle today. Now, I do think me sucking ass at puzzling is like 70 to 80% a me problem and 20 to 30% a game problem. So I find it difficult to see this as a real flaw of the game. Maybe someone more proficient and better out-of-the-box thinker won't experience this at all. However, the puzzling is not why I play these games. To me, it's all about hopping from painting to interact with the characters copied and pasted into this world from other works of art, and engage in the stupidest conversations that are both meant to celebrate and poke fun at iconic pieces of art. On the one hand, you have the musicians playing some of the most well-known classical music known to mankind, which is clearly meant to celebrate their genius. On the other, however, you have signature characters from signature paintings saying the most vile shit and being portrayed as total idiots. And this is my main issue with this game, in particular. As per usual, the formula for the humor is over-the-top writing and using way too many fancy words to accomplish nothing but making witty and childish jokes. However, opposed to its predecessors, the humor just doesn't hit for me. Maybe it's because I'm now 27. And I might be slowly but surely becoming a cranky old man. But something about this just feels too much like a bad Pokemon ROM hack. I talked about Snakewood earlier this year, and I'd say its dialogue and humor are comparable. Which says quite a bit if you've watched my video on it and know Snakewood at all. It leans way too much into the meme culture, into the pee-pee poo-poo jokes, something that to me at least wasn't the case in its predecessors. The others leaned into black and absurdist humor, where this game is just an abundance of feces, nudity and sex jokes that, in my opinion, run out of steam very quickly. It's not about being witty this time, it just feels like the game is trying to be as gross as it can be. And like, sure, go for it I guess, it's a different idea, but at least catch me by surprise, rather than being this bland and this unimaginative. Oh, haha, he's drinking cow poop. Oh ho ho, they are having anal sex. Hee hee, she's got saggy tits and a rat is eating her pussy. Oh, ha ha ha, men do love titties, am I right? Like, it's semi-funny the first time, but jokes like these over and over and over just get old very fast. Add to that the dialogue is written like an edgy 13-year-old in his mom's basement, and it is borderline annoying to sit through at times. Every 3 sentences there will be an insult adding nothing to the experience, overused memes that made my eyes roll, modern sayings that weren't even funny when they were popular, and even using the old school MSN days text-based emojis like the tongue one and the winky face. When I saw the clapping hands emojis pop up in this one sentence, I let out an audible sigh. It was like, not funny, not witty, just cringe, man. It's just, there's more to being funny than just being as gross as possible, as insulting as possible, shoving as many memes and funny sentences down my throat. Let's take Crisis City as an example. A game that's funny through its chaotic nature of its high-octane gameplay. Or Producer 2021, which manages to be peak comedy through its absurd events and clever as fuck writing by Stuffed Wombat. Or even Detective Gallo, a game that is really funny through its incredible noir parody events and dialogue. These games manage to be funny, clever, and enjoyable. They balance serious dialogue and humor by not being over the top, and actually try to be games with a sense of progression. They are not games that are all humor. They pace their comedic moments to not oversaturate the player and build an actual game, so the player can walk away having their needs satisfied and actually feel like they played a game with a purpose, I guess. And Death of the Reprobate is all humor. Unfunny humor at that. And burns you out halfway through its 4-hour runtime. And I think that is really unfortunate, because even then, I still like the game. It just could have been so much better, man. Even if I just went on a small rant about its humor, it's not like it never hits. There are plenty of actually good gags and moments where you're just left thinking to yourself, "Whoa, I can't believe that just happened." Culminating into the craziest fucking finale where the world literally goes to shit and you're chased by the devil himself. I loved the absurdity of this finale, and at least was a more than satisfying conclusion to the game, even if it fell over a handful of hurdles along the way. Not that I can really show any of it properly though. Hell, I can't even show a good chunk of the game due to its nature. Which is probably gonna make editing this video really annoying. The game's art style is obviously meant to resemble mostly Renaissance paintings. I'm not gonna be Mr. Technical about the other eras, so fuck you. In these paintings, and thus also in the game, there's quite a bit of nudity. And YouTube is still in its "no, nipple is very bad" phase. And I don't think that's gonna change. The nudity in this game definitely fits the game's narrative and art style perfectly. And there is quite a bit of it. And while there's quite a bit of it in this game, it's often not even used in a sexual way. Aside from like the ending where you have naked half women, half horses making out with the musicians and all that while the world is ending. But it's never arousing, nor meant to be arousing. I wish I could show you the full picture, but YouTube still lives in 1842 or some shit. Like, we all got genitals, man. We all got nipples. Let it go, please. This nudity adds to the game's creative expression. But YouTube's gonna be like, no, my advertisers don't like a penis. Oh no, no penis in my video. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it definitely sucks to have to blur this much, because the art style is genuinely beautiful. Rarely do I ever see games adopt a Renaissance era art style like this game does. But Joe Richardson always fucking nails this. It goes without saying, the classical music in every single area more than complements the experience. I don't know. It kinda sucks to not enjoy this game as much as I was hoping to. It's not a bad game by any means, and I would still definitely recommend playing it. But be aware of the fact that the humor is more than overdone, and could get really annoying. The puzzles, while gross at times, are pretty good, even if my dumbass couldn't always solve them. Its presentation slaps harder than my dad's belt, and underneath some really annoying jokes, there are definitely funny moments to be found. Not to mention, sitting through the entire game rewards you with a more than entertaining ending, if you ask me. I like Death of the Reprobate to a certain extent, but I'd love for Joe Richardson to include humor in more clever, witty and less over-the-top annoying meme culture ways in future games. You can tell this guy is incredibly talented at video game development, and that's why it doesn't sit right with me to criticize this game. Death of the Reprobate is a work of literal and figurative art, but goes overboard with attempts at being funny. Unfortunate, really. Anyway, I think I'm gonna keep it at that. All that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching this comprehensive review of Death of the Reprobate. I'm sure there was zero cohesion and I ended up forgetting to mention crucial aspects of the game. But yeah, that was to be expected from a mostly unscripted ramble. I hope you enjoyed my yapping regardless. Even if I sound nasally as fuck and I was fighting for my life during some of this recording. Luckily I have water. I hope you enjoyed. So I'll see you in the next one. Later.